Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make your own shellac, which opens up a lot of options in the world of shellac because you can then pick your color and you can pick your pound cut versus just buying whatever cans are at the store. And it's really simple. All you have to do is measure, grind, measure, mix. Done. Let's dive in. Looking at the items we need to make your own shellac, there are some must-haves. There's one that I feel is a must-have where others might not, and there are some items that are more of a luxury, but I'm really happy that I have. So let's check those out. Of course, you're going to need some shop towels in case you spill anything. You're going to need some sort of container that can house the shellac. You're also going to use this for your measuring. You are going to want to make sure that it's airtight. So I just recommend one of those ball jars. You're also going to need a scale. That way you can weigh out the different materials. You're going to need shellac flakes. I chose to go with Wellermart. I've been very happy with their prices, happy with their products. If you watch my previous video, I did a huge test testing out all of the different colors, and they sell them in smaller bags. So if you don't want to invest yet and get a big bag, you can buy smaller quantities from them. The other thing you're going to need is denatured alcohol. Now, some people use isopropyl alcohol, some people use Everclear. You can use a whole bunch of different stuff. This is what I use, and this tends to be what I prefer because it's easy to get at my local Ace Hardware. The next item some people may consider a luxury item, but I see it more as a necessity because it just makes the process easier, and I found that I get better results with it, and that is a coffee grinder. This coffee grinder was only 20 bucks, but it really does grind the flakes into powder and makes it mix into the solution a lot better. So it is something that I would highly recommend considering if you're going to get into making your own shellac. The next two items people might really consider luxury items, but I really prefer having them on hand. And the first thing is a magnetic stirrer or an industrial mixer, whatever the official term is. It's 24 bucks. What you do is you put the jar in there, the magnet goes inside of the jar, and it mixes the solution for you. So it's just super handy. It makes sure that it's consistent. You don't have to sit there stirring forever. You can set it on there, let it stir while you work on other things. The other item that is more of a luxury item is a jar opener. And the reason that I put this with the shellac is because if you aren't diligent with cleaning the mouth of the jar, the lid of the jar, it can get sealed shut with that shellac and you'll have no access to your shellac. So this thing has been very handy for me in helping me opening the jars because it just gives you a little bit more leverage versus trying to use your hand strength. Granted, I do have a bad wrist, so if you are older or have arthritis or you have a break like I do, I would say that this is more of a necessary item than a luxury item. And for all of these items, I'll have links down below for you. Next, you got to figure out what pound cut you want your shellac to be. Now, if you're looking at the cans at the store, those are a higher pound cut, like 3 pound or above. I'd say maybe 5 to 7 pound, to be honest with you, because they're really thick. And that's all that means. The higher the number is, the thicker the shellac is going to be. The lower the number is, the thinner the shellac is going to be. So I typically go with a 1 pound cut and a 2 pound cut, and I use both on the same project. A lot of times I'll use the 1 pound cut as a flood coat and then use a 2 pound cut from there. If I see spots later on that need touched up, then I reach for the 1 pound coat again. But this is something that you should experiment with. You should have fun trying these different pound cuts out to see what you like. You might like a 3 pound cut because it's 1 or 2 coats and you're done. Or you might not like it because you're not very good at applying it and you need to go with a thinner one so your brush strokes and your white marks don't show. So just keep that in mind. If you buy a big enough bag of shellac, actually, I think even that 1/8 ounce bag or the small, I'll pop it up on the screen. The smallest bag, I was able to make a batch of 1 pound cut and 2 pound cut out of that same bag. So just keep that in mind and have fun with it. Let's get mixing. For this video, I'm going to be making a 1 pound cut solution because that's the one that I need. I still have some 2 pound left. So the first thing you want to do is put your jar on the scale and zero it out, so that way you can measure directly in here. Now, you can take this bag and pour it, but just know that when you do that, it's going to go all over the place. So what I like to do is grab a different container, scoop some flakes out, and then pour them into the jar as such. And you basically keep pouring until you get to whichever ounce solution you want. So again, this is a 1 pound cut. I only want 1 ounce. And a little bit more. There we go. All right, so we got 1 ounce. I wouldn't stress too much on this. If it's like 1.1, don't worry about it. But get it as close as you can. Just don't drive yourself crazy with it. If you remember our steps, the next part is grind. So you take those shellac flakes, dump them into the coffee grinder, and you grind them up. And that will get you a powder solution like that. If you see any big chunks, you probably want to grind just a little bit more, but to me, this looks good. Then we go back to our scale where we're still going to use the same jar, and we're going to pour this ground up powder into there, which this is where it can get messy, but I'm going to try here. You can use your finger. This is food safe because shellac is basically, I believe, just bug poop. Bug excrement, whatever the professional term is for it. So you can wipe as much as you want to. I pretty much use the same color of shellac now. I decided that ruby is the kind I want, so I don't really care about cleaning that out too much because it'll be the same color again later. All right, once you get your powder in there, you want to zero it out again, and this is when you're going to pour whatever solution you chose. I went with denatured alcohol, and I am going to pour until it is 8 ounces. Now, I know it says for fluid ounces, but this is going to be good enough. Oh, I went over. That is okay. I'm not going to stress on that. For these measurements, I mean, they tell you on the back of the bag, do it like this, do it exactly like that. I get it ish. I went over. I'm not going to take a syringe and try to take some out, so it is okay. We're at 8.3. From here, you mix away, and this is where you can choose to sit here and mix it yourself, or take one of these magnets, drop it in the jar, set it on the mixer, turn it on. Now for this, you do want to put a lid on it because there is alcohol in there and you don't want a lot of that to evaporate out. So what I do is I clean the top just a little bit, put the lid on. And you basically just want to leave it here until you don't see any more of the shellac crystals. I don't have an exact time for this. I basically just leave it, go do other things, don't pay attention to the time, and come back and it's done. Once you no longer see any floaties in there, you are ready to use your shellac. And with this, I just use a cotton rag. This is some sapele. Beautiful. Beautiful. We had to change benches because I'm working on another project. That's what I started while the shellac was mixing. Walnut. Cherry. Maple. And then for the rag, I just leave it in the jar. The other thing I recommend is after every single time you use it, wipe the lid off. Wipe this part off and wipe this off. That'll make it so it's easier to open and it doesn't get sealed shut. You may also want to wipe that in case you got any in there. Applying shellac is really easy, especially the 1 pound cut. You can wipe it in consistent strokes. I've also found that I go back and forth and it really doesn't matter because the 1 pound cut is so thin. When you start getting up to the 2 pound cut, that's when you might want to do full and consistent strokes, and a lot stays on that rag, so make sure you just don't add too much to it. But it really is easy to apply, and it really is easy to make your own, and you can customize it to whatever you want. Let me apologize too. While I was mixing the shellac, I started another project, and I don't want to move this. It's my workbench top. Keep an eye out for that video. But yes, making your own shellac is easy. It's fun. You can customize it to what you want. Have fun experimenting with the different pound cuts. Just remember, all you have to do, measure, grind, measure, mix. Done. Apply it to your board. When you are applying it, I just use a cotton rag and a glove, and then when you're done, just throw that rag in the jar, leave it in there. I also leave the magnet from the mixer in the jar because if you let it sit for a while, you can throw it back on that mixer and it'll mix it up for you again so it's ready to go. I also recommend using a cloth and wiping the rim of the jar and wiping the lid so that way it doesn't get sealed shut. I still recommend getting that jar opener because if you don't get all of it, sometimes it just holds on a little bit too tight and that thing just helps you out. But all right, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you got any questions, any comments, anything like that, feel free to let us know down below and have a good day.